The views or opinions expressed in the following broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of staff or management of DSE-TV. Viewer discretion is advised.
Another way is writing letters to the editor. Write those letters to the Muskegon Chronicle. And when you see something in the paper like Pat mentioned about animals, and you see that, well, write that letter to the editor and compare the loss of life in abortion and the loss of life in animal. I did bring a sample along. This was in the Lansing State Journal, and this woman wrote this. Hummer driver, well, I won't mention his name, it's quite a ways from Ann Arbor, but, just in case, his cousin is here in the audience. Hummer driver is charged with a 4-year felony crime for running over 3 baby ducklings with a vehicle. And yet thousands of defenseless unborn human babies are killed every day at abortion clinics. Something just doesn't add up. I think people that write letters to the editor are some of the bravest people I know, because you have to sign your name and you have to stand up in your community. Well, to recap, I've given you 3 ways to be part of turning this whole darkness of abortion into some light. Pray, be informed, act, be proud of being pro-life. And for the last 2, number 4, challenge men to be supporters of life. I really think that for most women, they do not want to have an abortion. They do not want to kill their baby. But when they are faced with that, what they feel is a problem pregnancy, and they turn to the father of their baby, and he shrugs his shoulders, and he says, it's your body, it's your choice. Then they decide there's no one there to support them. The man is really the major influencer for that woman. But that doesn't mean that all men feel that way. There are more and more studies coming out saying that men too are, after that abortion, their lives are affected too. We have on our website, if you go to it, we have an icon that says Teen Breaks. And if you go to Teen Breaks, you will find that this is a site where teens go to ask questions, to find answers, to really talk about a number of things, including abortion. And every once in a while, we will get some of those comments back, sent back to us. And this comment came from a man who was a little older, and my guess is probably he was going to the site to find out what his children were looking at. But he said this about his abortion many years ago. He said, every time I think about abortion, I get physically ill. If someone thinks guys are not affected, they're dead wrong. It's been 20 years since my girlfriend got an abortion, and there has never been a time that I have not regretted it. Never. I didn't ask her to do it. In fact, I didn't do anything. But this is important. He says, I didn't do anything. I let her down by letting her take the lead on everything, and I'm guessing she was looking for more support than just listening. I'm guessing she opted for an abortion because of my non-response. And I'm guessing I lost my baby, my girlfriend, and the life I should have had because I was too weak to do the right thing. And so for those of us who are parents and grandparents, it's important that we help the young men understand the need to be responsible and take care of their child. And the 5th thing, refuse to be discouraged, refuse to give up. What would make the supporters of abortion happier than if pro-life people would simply give up. Instead of 1 million abortions a year, we'd be talking about 2 or 3 or 4 or even more. But I do know it is not easy to speak out. It's not easy to be in this road that we walk. And it's certainly not easy after 38 years. And I know that people get weary. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I get weary at times too. But when I get weary, I think of 2 women. One woman her name is Renee Chillian. And Renee Chillian is the operator of an abortion clinic in the Metro Detroit area. And remember when I said in the beginning of my conversation about memories that are stamped into your head? Well, Renee Chillian probably will be in my head probably forever. Back in about I think it was probably 1987, 88, when we were trying to stop the use of Medicaid-funded abortions in this state, I had a television program that I was supposed to be on in the Detroit area, a talk show. And it was a debate on the referendum on stopping Medicaid funding. And along with me was my predecessor, Jane Muldoon. How many of you in this room remember Jane Muldoon? Oh, I do see a few. You remember Jane. Well, Jane and I were on this panel, and opposing us was Renee Chillian, the operator of the abortion clinic, and also the head of the ACLU. And we got to the studio, and they had us seated in these chairs and prepared for the television show. And I don't think he was the producer, but it was anyway someone that was getting everybody all ready. And he spent the time with the head of the ACLU, Howard, taking a look at his suit, and he said to Howard as he brushed off his shoulders, "You get a little dandruff here on your shoulders." And then with Renee, he fixed her hair all up. And it was like Jane and I were invisible. He didn't pay any attention to us, just taking care of Renee and Howard. So Renee has always been in my memory, and when I get weary, I want to assure that Renee is out of business as an abortion operator. But also, I want to give you another little look at Renee. Renee, in operating her abortion clinic, she was interviewed by the Detroit, one of the Detroit papers a number of years ago, just after RU46, the abortion pill, started to be used. And this is what Renee, this real champion of women, said. She noted that women, after taking the pill, would go home and pass the baby parts at home. And she said she wanted to help them so much that when they left her clinic after taking the RU486, she said, "We'll tell the women to carry a Ziploc baggie and a Dixie cup wherever they go so they can fish it out of the toilet and look to see if they've passed an embryo." So we have to put people like Renee Chillian out of business. Well, Renee makes me angry, and so that gives me the energy to move ahead. But also, there's another woman that I met a number of years ago. In this one, when I think of Lori, it doesn't make me angry, instead it breaks my heart. It's probably been 15 years ago or so, I spoke at a dinner about this size, and I usually try to include a story about an aborted woman in my remarks. And this time I used, at that dinner, and tonight, I used a story from the American Journal of Law and Medicine. And in this woman wrote about her abortion. She said, "My obstetrician did the abortion in the hospital. I had no anesthesia, no local, no tranquilizers. I lay there on the table and cried. A sheet was draped across me, and the doctor wiped pieces of the baby on it. 2 weeks later, I was in severe pain. I went to the bathroom, and there in my hand was my baby's head, a little smaller than a golf ball, and all black and tarry. They hadn't removed it during the abortion. I called the doctor, and he said, 'It's no big deal, just throw it away.'" Well, after my speech that night, this woman came up to me and she said, "You know that story?" I said, "Yes," and she said, "That was me." Well, I got to know Lori, and I can tell you that her abortion was a big deal. Not only to Lori, but it touched her whole family. So when I get weary, I think about Lori and the need for us to continue to ensure that other Loris and other unborn babies have the opportunity for life. Well, in winding down, I want to use another quote from Mother Teresa. You know, she was such a special woman, and she used everyday items to illustrate some great messages. In this one, she wrote about electrical wires, electrical cords, you know, the kind you plug into the wall. And she wrote, "Often you see small wires, big wires, old wires, cheap wires, or expensive cables, but they're all useless because until the current passes through them, there will be no light." Well, the wires are you and me. Some of us are small, and some of us are big, and some of us may be huge cables. But the wires are us, the current is God. And we have the power to let that current pass through us, and God will use us. And so when I look at pro-lifers, I see wires that are filled with the current of God. I see a current of determination and perseverance. And I see faces in this audience who have given years of their time, Nancy, years of their time and their talents. And they continue to do it because they've seen the face of abortion. They've seen wounded men and wounded women. And they've seen families torn apart by this choice. I also see among pro-lifers, I see courage and sacrifice. Courage to face the assaults of the media, and even assaults within their own families, and even assaults within the churches, within the pews. I also see among pro-lifers great sacrificial giving, financial giving. And I see the face of compassion. Because, you know, it's pro-lifers, they're the ones that are there to help the women through the crisis pregnancies and never charge for what they do. And so because of this determination, this courage, and this compassion, and especially faith, I see a future where abortion once again will be unthinkable. Roe v. Wade will be overturned. It will be overturned. So in closing, I want to thank you for continuing to inspire me, which you do, as we travel down together this road towards a future where motherhood will be honored, and where children will be cherished. And so from Galatians, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Thank you.